Shemu'ėl chapter 2. And it came to be afterwards that David inquired of Yahweh, saying, Do I go up to any of the cities of Yehudah? And Yahweh said to him, Go up. And David said, Where should I go up? And he said, To Hebron. And David went up there, as well as his 2 wives, Ahinoam the Israelitess, and Abigail the widow of Nabal the Carmelite. And David brought up the men who were with him, each man with his household, and they dwelt in the cities of Hebron. And the men of Yehudah came and anointed David sovereign over the house of Yehudah there. They also reported to David, saying, The men of Yavesh Gilad are they who buried Shaul. David then sent messengers to the men of Yavesh Gilad, and said to them, You are blessed of Yahweh, for you have shown this loving commitment to your master, to Shaul, that you buried him. And now, Yahweh show loving commitment and truth to you, and I am also going to do you good, because you have done this deed. And now, let your hands be strengthened and be brave, for your master Shaul is dead, and also the house of Yehudah has anointed me sovereign over them. But Avner son of Ner, commander of the army of Shaul, took Ishbosheth the son of Shaul, and brought him over to Machanaim, and set him up to reign over Gilad, and over the Asherites, and over Yisrael, and over Ephraim, and over Binyamin, and over all Yisrael. Ishbosheth son of Shaul was 40 years old when he began to reign over Yisrael, and he reigned 2 years. Only the house of Yehudah followed David. And the time that David was sovereign in Hebron over the house of Yehudah was 7 years and 6 new moons. And Avner son of Ner and the servants of Ishbosheth son of Shaul went out from Machanaim to Givon. And Joab son of Zeruiah and the servants of David went out and met them by the pool of Givon, and they sat down, one on the one side of the pool, and the other on the other side of the pool. And Avner said to Joab, Let the young men now rise, and compete before us. And Joab said, Let them rise. And they rose and went over by number, 12 from Binyamin, followers of Ishbosheth, son of Shaul, and 12 from the servants of David. And each man took hold of his opponent by the head, and thrust his sword in his opponent's side, and they fell down together. So that place was called the Field of Sharp Swords, which is in Givon. And the battle was fierce that day, and Avner and the men of Israel were smitten before the servants of David. And there were 3 sons of Zeruiah there, Joab, and Abishai, and Asael. And Asael was light on his feet, as one of the gazelles in the field. And Asael pursued Avner, and in going he did not turn aside to the right or to the left from following Avner. And Avner looked behind him and said, Are you Asael? And he answered, I am. And Avner said to him, Turn aside to your right hand or to your left, and lay hold of one of the young men, and take his armor for yourself. But Asael would not turn aside from following him. And Avner again said to Asael, Turn aside from following me. Why should I strike you to the ground? How then could I face your brother Joab? But he refused to turn aside, and Avner struck him with the blunt end of the spear in the stomach, so that the spear came out of his back, and he fell down there and died on the spot. And it came to be that as many as came to the place where Asael fell down and died stood still. And Joab and Abishai pursued Avner, and the sun was going down, and they came to the hill of Ammah, which overlooks Giach by the way to the wilderness of Givon. And the children of Binyamin gathered together behind Avner, and became a single company, and took their stand on top of a hill. And Avner called to Joab and said, Should the sword devour forever? Do you not know that it is bitter in the latter end? And when are you going to say to the people to turn back from pursuing their brothers? And Joab said, As Elohim lives, if you had not spoken, then all the people would have given up pursuing their brothers only the next morning. Joab then blew with the shofar, and all the people halted and pursued Israel no further, nor did they fight any more. And Avner and his men went on all that night through the desert plain, and passed over the Yarden, and went through all Bithron, and they came to Machanaim. And Joab turned back from pursuing Avner, and when he had gathered all the people together, there were missing of David's servants 19 men and Asael. But the servants of David had stricken of Binyamin and Avner's men 360 men who died. And they brought Asael and buried him in his father's burial site, which was in Beit Lechem. And Joab and his men went all night, and they came to Hebron at daybreak.